Bienvenidos amigos y amigas del canal, ¿cómo andan una vez más? ¿Cómo va Doc? ¿Todo bien? Marcelo, ¿cómo va eso?
¿Cómo andás, Pablito? Siempre esperando estos videos tan interesantes contigo.
Bueno, me alegro. Hoy tenemos el bonus track, el disco entero
Perfecto.
de bonus, así que vamos a ver un poco de qué se trata el tema este del disco entero de bonus track de la edición Blu-ray de Volver al futuro.
Muy interesante. Dale.
Bueno, a ver.
Uy, qué buen logo. Me
Sí,
encanta el
¿no?
logo de Universo.
Está bueno.
Espectacular.
Epa, bueno.
Está re bueno este video, muy bueno.
Mirá qué bien que está la imagen esa, ¿eh?
Me encantó. Me fascinó.
Bueno, mensaje de Doc Brown desde 2015.
Este mensaje salió el día exacto que fue el aniversario, el 21 de octubre del 2015.
The future has finally arrived. Yes, it is different than we all thought. But don't worry, it just means your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one.
Qué grande el Doc. Vamos con Doc Brown salva al mundo.
¿Entendés? Está viejito, ¿eh?
Sí, por.
Hello. My name is Dr. Emmett Brown, CEO, CFO,
Más viejito que ahora. Ahora está como un poquito más
CTO,
rejuvenecido el actor.
Enterprises. Tiny change to the past can create major repercussions for the future. But unless I take action, all timelines can only lead to the food hydrator. People soon discover that if you hydrate food that's already hydrated, you get double food. Things get heavy, Marty. You no longer bend over to reach their feet. Shoe stores only sell two items: self-lacing shoes or slippers. For the worse. When people realize it's easier than walking, it becomes the hottest selling item in history. So we come to the Mr. Fusion Home Energy Reactor, a tiny little nuclear reactor. And on October 21st, 2045, all 100 million of them will explode. Valley Courthouse, in less than 24 hours, he vows to get back at everyone who laughed at him that day. The entire world. Griftech invents a social network that allows inanimate objects to post selfies. The kids love it. But spoiler alert, it's a scam.
No.
Great Scott! It worked! Yes, it worked! They're all gone! Quantum Mind Tour. I thought I got rid of you in 2075. This will unravel everything I've accomplished.
We need to go back to the future.
No. No more time travel. It's too risky. We can't afford any more mistakes.
Este particular, vos es que no lo había visto este video. Yo vi otros videos, pero este no lo he visto. No, está muy bueno. Es una re paradoja.
God.
Es armado. Re paradoja.
This is heavy.
Lo último vamos salteando partes para que no sea tan largo. Pero estuvo bueno el clip ese.
Y yo
Raro.
particularmente no lo había visto. Ese la verdad me sorprendió. Eso no lo había visto. Ah, esto sí lo vi.
Son más entrevistas.
There's nothing greater than to say, okay, I've
ACMX
Sí.
Gale.
something here that may even actually live beyond me.
It's nice people come up and like and enjoy.
Joven. Estos son entrevistas. Un documental cuando eran jóvenes. Uno recién habían salido las primeras películas.
Claro.
Most time travel stories is very convenient because what they do is they don't
Mirá qué joven que estaba ACMX,
they don't
boludo.
take you back.
Sí.
They take you far enough back to where you aren't born yet, or far enough forward to when you're already dead. And it gets real complicated when you start time traveling within the realm of time of your own existence.
You know, the whole idea that you could go back and jeopardize your own existence because your mother would fall in love with you. I mean, who thinks like that? I mean,
But the elements of the story, I mean, it just, I
Yeah,
could tell right
Michael.
away, it was just so
Michael, que era-
cross-generational. It was just like, it had something for everybody.
Look, you're not going to be picking a fight, Dad.
Igual se nota el Parkinson. Ahora que uno ya sabe lo que le pasó y lo que le va a pasar en el futuro,
Claro.
mirá los videos del chabón y te das cuenta como que tiene algo raro.
First, you turn the time circuits on. If you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Esto en DVD había salido con un DVD aparte con esta parte de la restauración del DeLorean. Yo el
Claro.
DVD lo tengo.
What's capacitor?
We're sending you back to the future.
Time was not kind to the time machine.
They've been sitting out in the rain for years, and all these pieces started to.
Pero ¿a quién se le ocurre dejar el DeLorean así, boludo?
Possible made a home
Suerte que lo dejaron en el Universal y encima la gente pasaba, lo dejaron a la intemperie y la gente pasaba y sacaba pedacitos del DeLorean.
Claro.
La sacaba así como si nada, tenía el recuerdo, chao, me arrancó un pedazo. O sea, lo dejaron muy descuidar.
I felt, no. Something has to be done. I knew we had to find a way to save the time machine. There was just no question about it.
Lo dejaron re descuidar.
Qué cosa, ¿no? Qué loco.
Y el tren también había hecho lo mismo, ¿eh? Lo que pasa es que el tren no lo restauraron, pero el DeLorean sí lo restauraron, pero lo dejaron también en la intemperie y la gente sacaba pedazos.
Time machine, you have to go back to the beginning, back to the pre-production for Back to the Future.
Aparte es tan linda.
It was an unusual job. They had concept art for these cars. And the concept art was from a couple really talented guys, Ron Cobb and Andy
Ahí te
Probert, who
cuentan
was on the
cómo fue creado el
And our
DeLorean
job was to
para la
look at
película.
those pictures, go out into the real world, try and find stuff that's going to have that same feeling of the pictures. You've got to walk this line. It's got to look right. It's got to look believable. But there has to be some fantasy to it also.
For Back to the Future, we had our special effects department build 3 time machines. The first one was called the A car. It was the most detailed, the best looking, and had all the bells and whistles. It was the main car used throughout the film. The second car was the B car. That car was built for stunt work. It looked good, but it wasn't quite as detailed as the A car. And the third car was the C car, or the process car. It was a DeLorean that we cut in half so that we could get the camera inside. So whenever the camera is in the
Cortar un
DeLorean, that's the
DeLorean.
C car.
The A car was used the most in the movie. It was the hero prop. The first time you see the DeLorean in the film, when it rolls out of Doc Brown's truck, that beautiful, beautiful shot, that is the A car. And every time you think of the DeLorean time machine, you're thinking of the A car.
Of all the time machines built for the first film, Back to the Future, only one survived. The C car was used in all 3 films. It was eventually dismantled. The B car we actually see getting destroyed by the train at the end of Back to the Future.
Ah, ¿lo destruyó en serio?
And
Sí.
that just leaves the A car.
Joder.
That is the only original time
Uno lo
machine
tuvieron que
left
destruir
from Back to the
para
Future.
lo que uno lo tiró en un barranco posta, el
Podría
otro
haber
lo
sido un efecto especial, o podría haber sido una
cosas que
maqueta.
lo pudieron filmar con una miniatura.
Pero podría haber sido un efecto especial. ¿Para qué rompieron el
Lo
DeLorean?
digo, lo hicieron- a ver, lo hicieron 2 veces. Lo hicieron con unas miniaturas y después se dieron cuenta que no funcionaba tan bien y lo hicieron con un DeLorean posta.
And allowed people to get their picture taken with it.
Yo lo habían hecho con unas
And
miniaturas,
it was
con
just a shock to me to see
una réplica miniatura.
how
Que algunas
dilapidated it
escenas de la
was,
réplica
to
miniatura
see that it
utilizaron.
was barely
Pero la
holding
escena,
together.
la escena cuando
I have
cae,
no
cae,
idea
si
how
es
much
así,
longer it would have
utilizaron
lasted,
el
but I
mundo
don't think it would have
verdadero.
lasted much more than a few more years.
Right around the time of this project, we were coming up on Universal's 100th anniversary. There was a lot of energy going on at the time in the studio about our past. And here there was the most iconic, movie car in the history of cinema sitting right there. It just needed love and attention. So at that point, I took on the project and started talking about Bob, and we started to assemble the team that would ultimately do the restoration.
Given the importance of the A car, given the importance of Back to the Future, I wanted this thing done perfectly. I didn't want some guy in some auto shop to do it. I needed somebody who was a Back to the Future fan. I needed somebody who loved the DeLorean. And the person I chose for this was Joe
Estaba,
Walsh.
bueno, te lo digo. En realidad lo que estoy hablando yo era locomotora, no del DeLorean. El DeLorean no se tenía que haber destruido, porque el DeLorean desapareció.
Joe built 2 of the best DeLorean replicas I'd ever
La
seen.
locomotora sí, tiraron una
I said,
locomotora
if
posta,
Joe would
no un
do
DeLorean.
this, I knew it would be done right.
The DeLorean time machine has always been, hands down, my favorite movie car. I've been researching it for over a decade. So when Bob Gale asked me to restore the actual DeLorean time machine, I was like, hell yes. I knew I was going to need a lot of talented people to get this done on time. So I put together a team of the biggest
Esto para restaurar el DeLorean tuvieron como un montón de años y casi no venía la familia con tal de estar restaurando el DeLorean.
Y si yo me dedico a eso también, porque la verdad,
And we
Dios, con la
had
familia.
1 year to make this thing perfect.
Our goal was to do a full-on museum quality restoration from top to the bottom. Every piece, every part restored exactly
Tipo,
the way
no
it
estás
was.
en casa, estás haciendo el laburo todo el tiempo y algo porque se quedan horas extras.
Finally took the car
Y sí,
into
si
our
sos fanático,
No
sos
fue
fanático.
fácil.
and looked at the work ahead of us.
Fue bastante
I
jodido.
turned to Joe and said, "This is impossible." And to Joe's credit, nothing is impossible.
Bueno, ahí vamos a tratar de adelantarlo a ver cómo
Every single stainless steel panel that's part of the car.
Porque prácticamente quedó totalmente destruido, o sea, no lo tuvieron prácticamente de hacer como de cero. Tuvieron que hacerlo de cero prácticamente, dejaron como el esqueleto, pero está prácticamente hecho de cero.
Claro, mirá como pedacito por pedacito los tipos van reconstruyendo. Ahí lo estamos viendo, el adelanto a velocidad rápida para que no sea un video eterno. Cómo van haciendo de a poquito, de a poquito. Esto podría haber sido tipo para History Channel, ¿viste? Los reconstructores de auto que aparecen en esos videos lo tendrían que hacer de este auto icónico y tranquilamente, a ver si hay...
Cero, parte de cero lo hicieron.
A ver, vamos a mostrar ahí cómo quedó un poquito.
En el museo.
Sí.
Ahí está en un museo.
Sí, sí, ahí muestran cómo... Ahí está.
And it was
Vamos a
brutal.
mostrar, a ver.
But we did whatever it took to get the job done.
I think all of us gave a little piece of our soul to bring this car back to life, so we did this special thing
Ahí lo
to sort
firmaron,
of
claro.
celebrate the restoration.
Perfecto.
The entire team and Bob Gale signed it. We have our names on that car permanently forever. It was a way of memorializing that moment. And it's hidden away. No one can ever see it.
Encima lo firmaron todo lo que lo laburaron.
Being attached to this project in some way, shape, or form has totally been worth everything that we put into it.
It was time spent with friends. It was time spent with the best car in the world, and who else could ask for more?
When I finally got to see the fully restored car, my jaw dropped. I mean, the work these guys did was phenomenal. It was a very proud moment.
Quedó bien, ¿eh?
The car
Hermoso.
is perfect. And that's not a phrase.
Y de cero, de cero.
That beautiful
Hermoso.
that silhouette
Mira, mira,
is
mira,
unlike
mira.
any
Hermoso.
other in the world. That's why we did it. Because we brought that back to what it's supposed to be.
Seeing the time circuits, the speedometer, the flux capacitor, the gauges are on. It's really surreal, but at the same time, it's just really rewarding knowing we restored the vehicle.
To know what we did was just this sense of accomplishment that we did something that nobody else did, or even I don't think anyone else could have done.
You know, that opening shot when the DeLorean came out of Doc's van, you know, every time I watch that now, it means a lot more because I worked on that car, you know, I put it back.
The restoration team did an absolutely fabulous job of bringing this car back to life 25 years later. It's ready to go before the camera.
For those guys to put that kind of effort and care and time into that project, it's just a huge honor to have worked on something that they feel is worthy of their
Tiene un aire a John DeLorean, ¿eh?
It's just a huge honor.
All of you guys, I have a heart for you all. And
Está Claudia Wells.
Mirá, Claudia.
Yo la conocí, esa mujer, es hermosa.
Sí.
Now that the
La
car
primera
was
Jennifer.
fully restored back to its original screen condition, we knew we needed to spend that same amount of time and energy to display it in the proper way. So
Ahí está.
fans of the film trilogy can see the
La
DeLorean, but
exhibición de
also hopefully casual
Back
fans
to the
who maybe
Future.
even haven't seen the film yet can learn about this car and learn about Back to the Future and keep that franchise alive for years and years and years to come.
They stepped up to the plate. They created a wonderful, wonderful showcase to keep it safe from the elements, to keep it safe from the hands of tourists, and it was
Espectacular.
just
La verdad que quedó
fabulous what
hermoso.
they did.
The fact that it's on display now in a perfectly restored condition is
Ni
a
un detalle
testament
tiene.
to the power of that
Original
song
G
and
Hero.
to the power of love.
For myself, it took me back to when I was young, about 1986, and I would see the car on display at Universal Studios. And seeing it in
Mira,
that exact same
pero no te
condition
sentés
now once
encima,
again
pelotudo.
made me feel like a kid again.
When you watch Back
Que
to
lo
the
rayás.
Future, seeing the DeLorean in person is a way that makes it that much more real. You know, you can't meet Marty McFly, you can't meet Doc Brown because they're not real people, but the car is real. And the fact that you can see it in person, it's special.
Universal Studios,
Cualquiera tiró ahí.
Bob Gale trusted us with
El
this
DeLorean, pero no es una máquina del tiempo,
icon,
boludo. Es un auto,
and
es el auto
I
real,
hope we
pero
did them
bueno.
proud.
I've been a fan of Back to the Future for 30 years. Restoring the DeLorean time machine really was a childhood dream come true.
So thanks to the efforts
Bueno, ahí está el
of
equipo de
Joe Lawson
restauración
and the Time
y ahí está el
Machine
DeLorean.
restoration team and all the hard work,
Muy lindo.
blood, sweat, and tears
Vamos a ver qué
that
más
put
hay.
into this. The time machine is preserved beautifully now, for the future, and for all time.
El casting de Marty McFly. A ver qué tal.
When it came to casting of Back to the Future, I know that the first choice had always been Michael J. Fox.
The first interview that I had with Bob, I was in his office and I said, you know, who is going to play Marty McFly after all? And he said, well, I'm still looking. They were scouring the entire country, going to high school and looking at various young actors. And he went over to a teen magazine and opened it up. He said, but the guy that I really want is that guy. And that guy was Michael J. Fox. He said, but I can't have him because he's tied up doing Family Ties.
Universal had just finished working with Eric Stoltz on Mask. So he was in fact hired to be Marty McFly.
And Eric Stoltz was acting, I mean, he was very good, but there wasn't that flair, the comic flair.
Comentar, tipo una entrevista como el anterior.
Sí, sí, es un documental que te cuenta
Yo
cómo...
lo vi,
And suddenly they shut down production.
As a result,
de Strickland.
Strickland,
6
está
weeks
igual.
into it, we began with Michael as the new Marty McFly.
Yo, Marty, is that you? Hey, Doc, where are you?
Then he came in and we started.
Avanzamos un poco a ver si aparece algún footage del... de Michael como... No, no aparece... No aparece él haciendo como... Claro, no. No aparece escenas de él audicionando para... Mira la remera. Audicionando para el casting. ¿Eh?
Pero no, es documental, ¿no? Con entrevistas.
Sí, vamos a poner
No parece-
sí, algo de Christopher Lloyd, reflexiona sobre el Doc Brown. Vamos a ir poniendo partecitas.
I was doing a filming in Mexico, and I got a call from my agent that they were sending me a script, and at the same time I had been offered to go back and do a play back east, and I was juggling which was better. You know, I should be going back to my roots, go back to the theater and do this play, or do this thing called Back to the Future. And I waited and finally said, okay, let's give a shot at this.
I'm Dr. Emmett Brown. I'm standing on the parking lot at Twin Pines Mall. Saturday morning, October 26, 1985, 1:18 a.m. And this is temporal experiment number 1.
It's just always that thing, you know, you just know he's right.
When an actor melds into the role so well that you can't imagine any other actor playing the role.
Es así, es así lo que dice.
I felt I had an immediate kind of lock on Doc Brown and what he was about and who he was and how he looked and everything. It just sort of fit right into place.
I remember when this was all farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Peabody owned all of this.
El viejo Peabody.
He had this crazy idea about breeding the pine trees.
La cara.
These big manic, you know, bulbs, and you look.
Mira.
You can't imagine, say, Jeff Goldblum, who was his second choice for Doc Brown. I can't imagine him anymore playing the character.
There were two people that were kind of my role models. One was conductor Leopold Stokowski, and he had a great mane of white hair that went back from his head. He had a very defined profile, and the other was Albert Einstein.
Claro.
Chris Lloyd is able to do is embody a character like that with such purity and truth that you completely believe it.
Doc Brown is a guy who discovers new worlds of thought and invention and is constantly coming up with new concepts all the time.
He was able to perform a function that any story needs, particularly a fantasy story or a complicated story like this, which was to get at the exposition. What we call, actors call laying the pipe. But Bob was able to write and then cast that role in such a way that you could get all this exposition out, in this amazingly entertaining way. You have this guy go, 89 gigawatts, blah, blah, blah. You just rattle this stuff out, and it's fun to watch. And at the same time, you're going, oh wait, now I get it. And it was amazing storytelling.
As far as he's concerned, the trip was instantaneous. That's why his watch is exactly 1 minute behind mine. He skipped over that minute to instantly arrive at this moment in time. Come here. I'll show you how it works.
I guess what I learned in the theater was how to take, which you have to do in a play.
Va a avanzarlo un poquito.
You study.
Dale.
A ver si hay algunas escenas. Bueno, esa parte de Michael hablando así del Doc está buena también. Bueno, ahí tenemos el documental. A ver qué más hay. Tiempo de Gloria.
If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Is the DeLorean the egg or the chicken? Which enhances which? Does the movie enhance the DeLorean, which of course it did, because the DeLorean went out of business and will still be remembered because of the movies. Did
Menos mal que eligieron el auto.
DeLorean enhance the movie? Well, of course it did, because the original time travel was done in a refrigerator.
Look out!
When Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis decided that they weren't going to make the time machine a refrigerator and they were going to make it a DeLorean, it was a natural pick.
La toma del DeLorean, mirá.
This idea evolved in the story.
Vamos a avanzar un poco.
If it were
Esas tomas increíbles.
More stuff from Joe's, and then take it back to the shop where they were building the DeLorean.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
We started picking up different elements that we thought would look good on the car, from the Dodge Polaris hubcap in the back, and we kept running wires and choosing lights and whatever served the story.
It was pretty great. It was pretty cool. And there was a lot of, they had all the instruments there. They had the gauges and all the dials and everything was...
Claro, todos esos tableros quedaban genial.
Flux capacitor. It really felt spacey. And
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
I mean, they all have kind of an imagination about time.
Which is me.
Mirá.
This is the head.
Sí,
And
sabía,
you see through
sabía.
the mouth.
Claro.
Y no van a meter un perro en serio adentro del...
No, no, no da.
Metieron un tipo adentro disfrazado.
Claro.
Driving, the dog's head's about here and the steering wheel's here, so you have to drive with your hands down low, or the black gloves come across in the camera, then you know that the dog is not really driving. That's our dog of the day. I might get an act with this stuff. Go on the road or something.
Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale had a very clear idea about the car going back and forth.
Incluso hay una foto que está como está Marty, el dog y el perro saludando.
Mira.
Como es re antropomórfico.
La escena mítica.
Bob said, all I can tell you is that I wanted to feel like there's a Neanderthal sitting on the hood of this DeLorean with an ice pick just chipping away in front of the car, the fabric of time.
Los libios. No.
I don't think we ever
Qué linda camioneta.
Sí.
in real life. You know, I mean, it was a DeLorean.
Well, at the time, the car, gosh, it was 4 or 5 years old when the first Back to the Future came out, and by that point, the car, sad to say, it tanked.
I love the fact that Bob and Bob created an icon out of the failed American dream.
And then, of course, the fact that, John DeLorean got busted for cocaine, and trafficking and everything, that just made it all cooler.
Muy bueno. Yendo Hill Valley.
Debe ser la construcción del Hill Valley del oeste, porque el otro Hill Valley es un estudio es un sector de Universal.
It was sort of like the peak of the American dream.
There was a lot of discussion about
Ese Hill Valley quedó, está en una parte de Universal. Que fue quemado, quemó un guardia de seguridad en el 2008, pero después lo volvieron a restaurar. Ahora está restaurado. Igual, está restaurado igual que antes.
This period, as of this date, this is going back to a period that people think is too recent to become a period film, and yet we've tried to give it a real period look.
Nobody shot on the town square at Universal backlot for a long time. In retrospect, it was a brilliant idea.
We could create a town that was contemporary for the beginning of the film, and then go back and
Sí, sí, filmó bocha de películas y series, no solamente Volver al Futuro.
Y
Los
está
Gremlins,
lindo el set.
Poderoso, y de muchos capítulos de La Dimensión Desconocida. Y ahora que lo restauraron, lo que se estuvo filmando ahora fue la serie de Ted. Es la serie de TV de Ted que va a salir ahora en un mes. Y se filmó ahí, era el Steel Valley de Universal.
I think we have some tricks up our sleeve yet.
I think one of the things that was most intimidating about this movie when I first started doing it was that there were so many things going on, like the lightning, the wind, and all that stuff, that as an actor, you're kind of incidental. The thing I always got to remember is every time they watch a shot, they got to make sure that the crane is right, and the wind is right, and the lightning's right, and the leaves that they're throwing in is right. But I know when it gets in the theaters, what they're going to look at is whether I look like an idiot or not. So I got to monitor that. Anyway, so the deal is now I gotta yell over these fans in order to be heard, so I sound like Broderick Crawford. My hair is not blowing around as much as it should because I got 20 pounds of grease in it. And so basically I'm dying out there, but it looks great, they keep saying. It looks great.
Claro, está gritando como un loco y dice casi la quedo. Qué fenómeno. Preparando la escena de Johnny B. Good. Mítica escena.
I played guitar again as a teenager. I played in bands from when I was about 14 years old.
That thing right here where you're bouncing the bar on the second string. Go to the second, yeah. And you bounce there, bounce there, bounce there, and bounce there.
Right. I had a teacher named Paul Hansen, a guitar teacher, who was an amazing guy, and a really talented musician and a great teacher, really patient.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Pam, pam.
Eso es en realidad cuando están con los cabezas de alquiler.
Claro.
Hasta Johnny B. Good.
Huey Lewis.
Claro. Al principio de la película, en la audición. Grabando.
Perfecto, dice, mirá.
Okay, good. Now, Huey, what you want to do is you want to just stay up there with the megaphone screaming at these guys until they stop. Okay. And here we go. Marker.
And next, please. Next group, please.
Quedó sordo, por eso ahora no hace más recitales. Con la banda hace como dejó de hacer recitales por eso, porque quedó sordo Huey Lewis, no escucha nada.
Se caga de risa, Huey.
I thought that was too long. Got it. It's funnier if it was cut off. Right, the lick's too long though. It's funnier if you only give them those, just give them like no time. Right.
Cut this whole lick down for nothing. For my own satisfaction, which is good.
Okay. Let's see.
He does a great little Van Halen bit where he goes,
You want to wait for that?
Se aprendió todo el punto del pedo, dice, claro.
all right, I'll do it right after that then.
Right after that Van Halen thing.
On the harmonics.
But as it pushes them too far.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud, fellas.
La cara de decepción total. Qué buen actor, boludo.
do you want, Huey Lewis? Without a doubt, my favorite scene in the whole movie is the dance scene, the Johnny B. Good scene.
What would it be like if you know,
Su escena favorita, dijo,
rock and roll for people who have never heard rock and roll?
All right, this is an oldie, but well, it's an oldie where I come from.
Michael J. Fox was practicing his guitar for the upcoming Johnny B. Good scenes. So he would stand there just playing his guitar, and my friend and I would walk by and we'd throw a quarter down at his feet.
We got Brad Jeffries, who's a terrific choreographer, who put together this whole thing. He and I worked out this Chuck Berry thing. Got a really good guitar coach named Paul Hansen, and he taught me all the riffs that were laid down by a guy named Tim May, who's a great session guitarist. And it's all going to make, all these people are going to
Bueno,
make
esa
me
parte.
look damn
No
good.
lo había visto,
And
esta
so
parte del documental.
it's great. So I'm having a good time. We're doing that stuff right now, and I'm just, I'm running in rock and roll right now.
Hey, camera rolling, Mark.
Mira que viene, ahí va.
Ah, bueno.
Param, pam, 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 param, 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 pam, param, pam, pam.
Igual medio difícil que lo puedan seguir los otros músicos si no lo ensayaron.
Marty has succeeded in bringing his
No es
team
fácil.
together.
No,
Ya.
pero
And the audience is ready to just take a breath and enjoy that moment.
They'd already recorded the track, so what I did was, you know, I took it and I went with a guitar teacher and I learned to finger sync it. So I'm proud of that. I mean, if you watch the movie, I'm pretty much playing every note that you see.
I like having classical music play if I'm eating dinner. But I'm just a rock and roll guy.
The reason that Johnny B. Good sequence works so well is because it takes you on a journey.
Michael jumped
Claro,
on that idea because
aprendió los punteos todos y después grabaron y lo pusieron ahí encima, claro.
On the guitar.
I had this idea and I talked to Bob about it, about, you know, putting in a little, you know, Pete Townsend windmill and Chuck Berry, you know, duck walk and Jimi Hendrix playing with my teeth and all that stuff. And so we were able to incorporate all that in. It was this amazing production number.
He said, Al, you know, I want to kind of like, you know, I want to go through the history of rock and roll in this
sí,
song. And I said, huh? And he goes, I would just like to feel, as he starts to play, that this song is kind of just ratcheted up into modern day, and I want to end up, you know, with Eddie Van Halen.
It's another sort of wish fulfillment beat. I mean, who wouldn't want to be that guy in that setting? I mean, he just gets to be so cool.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
Genial,
I think that the score for Back to the Future is brilliant.
Al Silvestri totally understood what we were after.
I saw the whole film.
La otra parte.
I came back
¿Qué?
and looked for something that would
Como que hacer la parte del,
the whole film.
¿cómo se llama? De la serie animada, lo podemos hacer en otro momento.
Sí, no, por eso te dije, la serie animada en otro momento, igual.
The writing and shooting of this picture lent itself to
to this kind of old-fashioned fantasy adventure story.
We have a giant, full-sounding movie score.
Esta parte es... De la parte de la música también es increíble porque la pegaron con todo.
Sí,
La pegaron con todo.
Dorá. Ahora sí le-
Sí, sí, la pegaron con todo. Vamos a adelantar un poco, pero para mostrar las imágenes, a veces hay algo ahí de Alan Silvestre componiendo, pero...
What a good score can do for a film is further enhanced.
Are you okay?
Que ahí se escucha.
It underlines what's already going on in the movie. It takes a good scene and makes it a great scene.
Claro.
There is some level of trust.
I talk to him like I talk to an actor. Here's what I think the audience should be feeling in this scene.
When Marty is finally going to break through or something is going to happen, to bring back a theme that has been established and has kind of grown through a film can really add an emotional impact.
Claro, ayuda a dar impacto emocional, sí. Yo ahora estoy escuchando perfecto cómo te ambienta el sonido. Agilizando el montaje, a ver de qué se trata esto.
You know, the turnaround on the film was really quick. I mean, because they edited it through the filming.
But it was not even a month.
Ah, mirá, al toque.
By the time we wrapped, to the time it was in the theaters, and I kind of went, oh, they think they've got something here, and they did.
We were just rushing frantically to
Lo
make
montaron
it.
al toque.
Usually when you go to preview, you have 2 or 3 months. We had 3 weeks. The first time that we had any inkling that we had a pretty terrific movie was at our first preview.
But I had this theory, it's not originally mine, but that you can only see something for the first time once, so I wanted to see it for the first time with an audience.
No audience had seen the movie before. And we were a little nervous. We didn't know what the audience was going to think about it.
The pacing in the movie is brilliant because it starts out really slow. For a movie nowadays, it starts out slow, but somehow he tells everybody, pay attention.
The movie started off kind of roughly during the first third before we go into the past. Young people, young teenagers who were sitting in front of me were pretty restless and talking.
I was getting a little agitated because people were disrespecting our movie, you know, why don't you be quiet and pay attention?
He was leaning over to me and saying, I'm gonna slug those kids out if they don't shut up. And I said, Harry, I think you better move to another seat.
That just lasted for a minute or two, and they settled down, and pretty soon we just had the most raucous experience. The people loved the movie.
Bueno, acá cuentan un poco el tema de cómo evidentemente se montó muy rápido la
The
peli.
second weekend box office was bigger than the first weekend box office. Something that'll never happen again in the way movies are today.
Claro.
But at that point we said, okay.
Por el boca en boca.
This movie's got legs, it's going to be around for a while.
Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Everything is great.
We
whatever, the fifth movie or something like that, or sixth movie that ever got to $200 million. And, you know, Star Wars, you know, and E.T., you know, I mean, had gotten there, but, you know, and here we were, you know.
Bueno, y este apartado tiene un ítem más.
As they said in the film, Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Reagan loved the movie. We heard from the White House that when he ran the movie in the White House, he made the projection stop the movie at the reference to who's president of the United States and watch it again. He was laughing so hard he missed some of the dialogue.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
That title in itself is just extremely catchy. I wish I had a nickel for every time I've seen it in a headline or a sub-headline in a magazine, a newspaper, an advertisement, or, you know, hearing it mentioned time and time again on television or radio.
Stay in school. Get that diploma. And let's go back to the future now.
Because the movie is now dated in the present, sort of adds another spin to the idea of time travel, because the present is time travel unto itself. But I think that's part of sort of the charm of the whole concept.
Say, you know, Marty, I'm going to be very sad to see you go. You've really made a difference in my life. You've given me something to shoot for. Just knowing that I'm going to be around to see 1985, that I'm going to succeed in this, that I'm going to have a chance to travel through time.
Looking back, I would say that it very much is that era's It's a Wonderful Life.
The whole idea of being able to change the past, being able to change your past, the chance to do something differently if you had another opportunity. I just think there's something really strong in that continues to come.
Vamos a adelantar a ver si hay algo.
Always trying to do, you know, you're trying to write your name on the bathroom wall of life. Put it up there in indelible ink, or put it up so high that I have a real hard time washing it off.
Back to the Future got it all together, got all the ingredients for a great kind of folk tale or something, you know, that just never quit.
See, I don't look at a movie, you know, until it's about 10 or 12 years old, and then I look at it and I go, yeah, it's pretty good.
Esto que es de la serie animada. Ah, acá hay... Porque en este disco te muestran un poco lo que sería la serie animada. Entonces te ponen la temporada 1, el episodio 1, la temporada 2, el episodio 2. Y anuncios de 2015. Pero la serie animada en esta edición, lo tenemos en discos separados. Así que no la vamos a mostrar ahora, la vamos a mostrar toda junta en el siguiente capítulo. Vamos a ver lo que son los anuncios de 2015 y con eso terminamos el video.
Vale.
El tráiler de Tiburón de 2019 y el anuncio del aeropatín. Vamos con eso.
Ah, bueno.
Jaws made you afraid to go in the water. Jaws 2 made you afraid to go.
Este teaser lo hizo el hijo de Spielberg. O sea, fue idea de él.
In Jaws 4 The Revenge.
Él no labura de director de cine, pero se dedica, el hijo de Spielberg se dedica a hacer videojuegos.
Made you afraid of robotic sharks. Then Chief Brody's grandson assembled a super team of shark hunters. Jaws 10, it was
De hecho, muchas cosas que están ahí en las películas así de o inventadas, están muchas ya, esas ideas están plasmadas en películas truchas.
Jaws started a family. Battled a Russian shark named Ivan Sharkovsky, took a bite out of the Big Apple, and learned about love from a mysterious stranger. Jaws 18 Origins, the mind-blowing reboot. Now, the oceans are disappearing, and to save their home, the sharks must attack. Jaws 19. This time, it's really, really personal. Coming
Por ejemplo, Tiburón 10 decía tiburón contra los peligros de las profundidades y mostraron un pulpo. Hay una película de un tiburón contra un pulpo. Después creo que la 8 era contra un tiburón robótico y también hay una película de un tiburón robótico.
No wheels, no friction, just little air. Big air, air, and mega air.
Ese era trucho, era un montaje, no era real.
Claro que sí.
Now I don't skate just because I'm cool. I skate to catch air. And the hoverboard gives me total freedom of movement all the time, bruh. Houston, we have air. Join the air pollution with the hoverboard. Air is no longer for just breathing, bruh.
Y en 3 colores, sí. Bueno, muy bien. Hasta acá, esto es todo lo que trae el bonus disc.
Es raro que no tenga la publicidad de Pepsi.
Sí, sí, es raro. Por ahí.
La publicidad de Pepsi Perfect en el 2015.
Sí.
Faltaría eso.
Faltaría eso. Bueno, en la próxima vamos a ver lo que es la serie animada. ¿Qué te parece?
Vale, perfecto. Nos encontramos después para la serie animada.
Nos vemos, hasta luego.
Continuará.